Greetings, rail fans. This is Casual Railfan, and I got some big news for you. We finally did it. We have reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is a shout out to all you rail fans and non-rail fans out there. I want to thank you guys so much for all your support over the years. For people like you and me, a little support goes a long way in keeping us going. And I support you in all your endeavors. Remember, never stop believing in yourself. So I thought about what I should do for this video, and I thought it would only be fair if I covered a topic that a lot of you guys have requested. How do you make a train horn out of water bottles, drinking straws, and cone cups? Have you ever wanted to own a train horn? A loud one that sounds like a real train, but you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on the real thing, or spend money to build a PVC version? Want to avoid the hassle of convoluted air equipment? Well, get ready to make some noise as I show you how to make a train horn using only super cheap plastic materials you can find right there in your home. The design for this plastic horn is very simple, with only the following components. At the base of the horn we have the air inlet. Our horn would be very quiet without this part. The heart of the horn is what we call the power chamber, trapping the air so it leaks nowhere. At the rear of the horn we have what makes our fabulous noise. Our diaphragm, which is a thin plastic sheet, sits tightly stretched at the back like a drum. And the nozzle, the rear of a drinking straw, sits against the diaphragm. When the diaphragm vibrates, there's no holding back. You can easily see how the straw protrudes slightly in this photo. Like a bottle cap, the retainer uses simple screw-in technology to ensure that the diaphragm stays in place. And finally, the drinking straw bell throat and bell flare made of a cone cup make the timbre and pitch of the horn. And all these pieces together create tons of fun for everyone. And with that out of the way, let's break out the toolbox. For this project, you may use larger straws, different materials, and different drill bit sizes, but for the sake of simplicity, we will be using the following materials of the following dimensions. Older children should be accompanied by a trusted guardian, and be sure to keep younger children and animals away from any small parts. If you are constructing a standard 5-chime horn, you will need one rotary drill, one Sharpie, an X-Acto knife, sandpaper, grease, safety scissors, one step drill bit. This must have 5/16 and 11/16 inch markings, one 7/64 inch drill bit, one Dremel. For this demonstration we'll be using the stylus. One Dremel sanding disc of about 2 centimeters or 20 millimeters in diameter. One Dremel mandrel. One hot glue gun. We'll be using this generously, so please make sure you have enough glue sticks. One flathead screwdriver, about 1 centimeter at its widest. One ruler. Now we come to the drinking straws. You will need at least 12 giant-sized drinking straws. These will be about 7 millimeters in diameter. You'll need 2 super jumbo-sized drinking straws, which will be about 6 millimeters in diameter. And lastly, we have one jumbo drinking straw, which is approximately 5 millimeters in diameter. 5 cone cups, 5 water bottles, 10 water bottle caps, a sheet of plastic packaging material. You'll need to cut 5 3.5 by 3.5 inch squares. You can also use balloon material or saran wrap. A pair of anti-cut work gloves is strongly recommended. We're already sweating. We don't need to add blood and tears to the mix. You'll need to wear these when drilling and cutting. And last but not least, safety goggles, because we like our site. And if it's a hot and sunny day like today, You may need a fan and several cold drinks. Make sure to keep hydrated. First, we're going to make the power chamber and its components. Take one water bottle and make sure a bottle cap is screwed on tightly. Now you want to take your ruler and place it just behind the spout of one water bottle. Now take your Sharpie and mark a line about 6 mm sideways as shown. Take your Dremel and attach the 7/64 inch drill bit. Now with your work gloves on, drill a pilot hole in the middle of the line and gently move in circles, slowly expanding the hole until it's 6 mm in diameter. Now, screw the 20 mm diameter cutting disc onto the Dremel mandrel and attach it to the Dremel. Gently scrape off the rough edges. Now attach a step drill bit to the drill. Take your drill and slowly drill a hole in the center of the bottle cap until the drill bit stops at 5/16 of an inch in size. You may also use a 5/16 inch size drill bit here. Now starting from the inside of the bottle cap, cut out the inner ring as shown here and cut the top away from the threads. You'll need the 20 mm diameter cutting disc to do this. You'll really need your work gloves for this step. Now sand the rough edges of the cap top using the sandpaper. This will be the front of the power chamber. Next, screw another cap top onto the bottle. Now take your drill with the step drill bit and slowly drill into the middle of the bottle cap until the bit stops at 11/16 of an inch in size. Unscrew the bottle cap and sand down any excess material using the Dremel sanding disc. Like we did before, cut out the inner ring of the cap, being careful not to cut off the threads of the cap. Now peel off any excess material. This will be the diaphragm retainer. Take your water bottle and your Sharpie and mark a line around the bottle about 1 centimeter from the spout. Now take your 20 mm rotary disc with the Dremel and cut around this line. This spout piece will make the power chamber. Take your sanding disc and sand off any rough edges. Now make sure your hot glue gun is plugged in. Place the flat cap top with the 5/16 sized hole on the side opposite from the spout and glue it into place with the glue gun. Take one 7 mm diameter straw and insert it into the hole in the front. Look at the spout sideways. Move the straw until the back of the straw protrudes about 2 millimeters behind the spout. Now glue the straw into place. Spin the power chamber to be sure that the straw is concentric with the rear of the spout. You might want to use your rotary disc and very lightly buff the end of the straw at a low speed to ensure that it's smooth. Using safety scissors, cut off a 4 centimeter section of 6 mm diameter straw and fit it in a quarter of the way into the air inlet. Now glue it into place with the glue gun. Take your sheet of plastic diaphragm material and place it over the rear of the spout. Now take your diaphragm retainer and screw it onto the spout, securing the plastic diaphragm into place. Make sure it fits evenly over the nozzle and that there are no wrinkles. If the diaphragm's too tight, you can loosen the retainer and gently press the diaphragm inward in a circular motion and retighten. If it's too loose, unscrew and pull tighter on the edges and retighten. Now you're ready to test your horn. If your horn is sounding good, you can repeat these steps with the other 4 bells. If you're satisfied with the sound, you can go ahead and make the manifold, but sometimes things just don't work out. Are you having trouble getting your horn to sound? Is it true that no matter how hard you blow, you can't get so much as a whisper? Or worse still, you get a painful sound akin to a stuck pig? We need to sort this out pronto. First, check all the glue seals. If you find a leak, add some more hot glue to the area. Remove the diaphragm and check to be sure that the nozzle at the rear of the straw is concentric with the power chamber. If not, you may need to unglue the straw and reposition it so that it's concentric. Sometimes your horn might produce an airy but ear-grating shrieking noise. If this is the case, the nozzle may not be protruding far enough outward. The nozzle must protrude at least 2 millimeters outward. Jagged, uneven, or cut edges on the nozzle may prevent the horn from sounding altogether. Minor imperfections may be remedied by taking the Dremel sanding disc and lightly buffing the nozzle. If the diaphragm is too tight, unscrew the retainer slightly and run your finger around the nozzle as shown, loosening the diaphragm, then retighten. If you find any wrinkles in the diaphragm near the nozzle, or the diaphragm is too loose, unscrew the retainer slightly and pull on the corners of the diaphragm sheet as shown, then retighten. A straw that's too small in diameter may constantly squeal no matter what you do. This is why it's best to use straws 7 millimeters in diameter and up. A busted diaphragm can be fatal to the horn's performance. You can either replace it with a new one or you can choose a non-busted area of the diaphragm to work with. A crack in the side of the straw is a no-go from the get-go, and if all else fails, unglue the straw and replace it with a new one. It may seem discouraging at first, but your satisfaction will make it all worthwhile once your horn is sounding good. Now that is more like it. Okay, so you got your 5 chimes or bells of your horn, but the question is, how can we sound all 5 at once? The answer is simple. A custom-made manifold will distribute air from one straw to all 5 of the bells. It may seem complicated and intimidating, but don't worry, we can do this. First, take your scissors and cut a 10 centimeter section of 7 millimeter diameter straw. Measure about 1.5 centimeters from one end and mark a dot here on the straw with a Sharpie. Now starting from the center of this dot, mark a circle around 6 millimeters in diameter. Take your 7/64 drill bit and slowly start in the middle of the circle, then slowly expand until the circle is covered. Be careful not to nick the opposite side of the straw. Repeat on the other side of the straw, making sure that each hole is aligned in the same plane. You can use a ruler as a straight edge to help you. Finally, measure 5 centimeters from one end and draw a final circle in between the two other holes. Now drill this hole like the other two. Now turning the straw onto the opposite side, measure about 3 centimeters from the end of the straw and draw a 6mm diameter circle here. Take the 7/64 drill bit and drill a 6mm hole. Repeat on the other end of the straw in the same plane. This will be the manifold base. Take a 6mm diameter straw and cut out 2 3-centimeter sections. Insert these 2 straw pieces into the 2 holes in the top of the manifold base and glue them in place with hot glue, making sure that they are straight. Now cut a 6-centimeter section of 6mm diameter straw. Hold this straw piece up to the last 2 pieces of straw and center it. Mark the areas where the 2 straws line up with the Sharpie. Draw 2 6mm circles and then drill 6mm holes. Insert the 2 short straws into the 6-centimeter long straw and glue them into place. Glue inside of the ends of the 6-centimeter long straw to plug them. Now on the top of the 6-centimeter long straw, draw a 6mm diameter circle in the middle and drill a hole here. This will be for the air inlet. Cut off a 5-centimeter long section of 6mm diameter straw and insert it into the top hole of the manifold. Now glue it into place. Cut off a 7-centimeter long section of 7mm diameter straw and slip it over the inlet straw. Glue this one into place. Finally, we can take our 5 bells and insert each inlet foot into the 3 holes and the 2 ends of the manifold base, no more than half a centimeter into the manifold. Place each bell on the manifold as desired and glue the feet into place. Now let's test our horn again with all 5 bells. If you want to make each bell of the horn removable, take your safety scissors and cut each air inlet in half. You can see how the feet are now embedded into the manifold. For the sake of comparison, if you're building a 3-chime horn, a 3-chime manifold will look like this. Take your ruler and your 5mm diameter straw and mark 5 2.5 centimeter sections and cut out the 5 stubs with safety scissors. Using the glue gun, apply a small bead of glue to the outside edges of each stub and smear it around the outside of the stub. Now don't overdo it, this will act as a sealant. Now, gripping one port of the manifold, insert the stub into the manifold halfway and then insert the other end into a bell's air inlet. Now repeat this process for the other 4 bells. Let's test out the horn once more. These stubs make it easy to partially restrict the airflow to a bell with a bead of glue if a bell gets too much air. You may want to play with the tightness of the diaphragm so that all the bells sound together. Again, glue any leaks if they arise. Now here comes the part you've all been waiting for. You want the horn to sound like a real train, right? Well, I'm about to show you how to be mistaken for a locomotive. For this demonstration, we will tune this horn to the sound of an air chime K5LA horn, popular on railroads such as Amtrak, CSX, and some commuter railroads. To tune the horn, we will need to slide giant-sized straws into the throats of each bell. Even though I had mentioned that the giant-sized drinking straws are roughly 7mm in diameter, some individual straws may have slightly different diameters, especially if you're collecting straws from restaurants. Sometimes you may get lucky and find a straw that allows for a perfect sliding fit into the bell. However, if the straw diameters are almost exactly the same, we will need to do something different to make them fit. To prep a bell for tuning, take a 1 centimeter wide flathead screwdriver and insert it into the throat of the bell. Now holding the bell, rotate the screwdriver while pulling it in and out for several minutes to bore out each throat, being careful not to crumple the straw. Take the other 7mm straw piece and sand the outside surface for several minutes with the sandpaper. This may seem tedious, but it'll be worth it. You may want to try out different sanding techniques. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take an X-Acto knife and scrape off all the excess shavings. Take some grease and lube the outside of the sanded straw. Carefully insert the sanded straw into the bell throat. The straw should slide in. A longer throat length will make the bell lower pitched. Pushing the second straw in further will make the bell shorter and higher pitched. Repeat for the other bells if necessary. If not, simply slide in the 7mm diameter straws into the bell throats. We've now test fitted each bell throat extension, and now we can begin to tune the horn. You can hear how much the pitch of a bell changes if you slide the extension back and forth. bell extension is too loose, the extension may vibrate out of place, so adding a small bead of glue to the outside of the extension may help keep it in place. If we are blowing this horn with our breath, we will need to create a mouthpiece. Insert a 7mm diameter straw into the air inlet. If the straws don't make a sliding fit, bore out the air inlet with a 1cm flathead screwdriver. Then sand down the bottom half of the 7mm diameter straw. For the sake of simplicity, if we are tuning to the chord of a K5LA, the ballpark length of each straw from the front to the nozzle in the back should be as follows. You may want to cut a few bell throats until you get to approximately these measurements. With these measurements, the horn should play a B major 6th chord. You may also want to deviate a bit to get a desired tuning by sliding the straws in and out. A piano can help guide your ear in this step. Now let's test the horn a few more times to be sure that we have the desired tuning. If you want to make a bell louder, you may use the open threads cut off a bottle cap from one of the first steps. However, this makes the bell prone to dipping in pitch, so you may need to restrict it. Finally, once you've committed to a certain tuning, you may want to add cone cups to the ends of each bell throat for aesthetic purposes, as well as making the horn sound louder. These will make the bell flares. Cut off about 1 centimeter at the bottom of the cone cup. You may also want to cut the cup near the top to make the bell lighter. Glue each cone cup into place. Keep in mind that doing this may alter the tuning slightly, so you may need to retune the horn accordingly. These horns may be as loud as 110 decibels, so wearing hearing protection is strongly recommended, especially if blowing for an extended period of time. Finally, let's give the horn an air source. You may simply blow into the horn using your breath as with a standard wind instrument. Or, you may remove the mouthpiece and use an air mattress pump. A really neat trick you can try is to feed some helium to the horn. You can do this by rigging a larger plastic bottle like a power chamber with an enlarged opening for the deflating port of the air pump. The other end with a straw will insert into the balloon. The inflation port goes to the horn. Remember to do this in a well-ventilated area. An air duster you can buy on Amazon can be a great source of air for the horn. If you want to use the horn while riding a bike, the safest way to use it is to rig the horn and the air duster like this, placing the button near the handlebar. You may also want to lightly glue the bell extensions into place. You may mount the horn on the bike using Velcro straps, and the horn may be mounted upright or downward as we see here. Remember, always wear a helmet. Now let's take the prototype for a spin. Periodically cleaning your horn is very simple. All you need to do is remove all the bell extensions and set them aside. Then you want to unscrew all the diaphragm retainers and remove the diaphragms. Now dispense soap into the power chambers and the bell throats, as well as into the manifold. Rinse out the entire horn using a source of water. Be sure to do this with the diaphragms as well. Dry out the power chambers and bell throats well with a paper towel after rinsing. Now replace the diaphragms and screw the retainers back on, and also reposition the bell extensions. You may also flip the diaphragms from their original positions. The prototype for this particular horn was built in mid-2012 with several heavy modifications from its original form. This horn started out as a joke when I decided to create a plastic gag air horn from a quick DIY video I watched on YouTube, and I wanted to see if this design would work with a water bottle and a vinyl glove. This is a visual representation of the prototype in its original form, with a full-length water bottle and a vinyl glove for the diaphragm held by a rubber band. At first, the performance of the horn was dodgy due to the small diameter of straw that was used. This produced a painful screeching noise. Once I tweaked the diaphragm, I connected two bells together with a custom manifold design. Then two bells became three as I experimented with different tunings. Here's a video of the prototype back in 2012 with the three bells together as I took it for a spin on an old bike. Note the custom manifold design. By adding a fourth note to the horn, I wondered if it were working properly, I could recreate the sound of an air chime K5LA. However, doing this required shortening the straw length on the fourth note, and this meant that the bottle had to be cut in the middle and then glued back together at a shorter length to accommodate the shorter straw, and the fourth note was placed at the end of the manifold. And after several tuning attempts, the plastic K5LA sound was born. With the success of the 4-bell design, a 5th bell was added, and this meant that the manifold design had to be altered. This manifold design allowed the air to be distributed more equally to the bells. I tested the horn on a bike, but the first test was a wash from the get-go, as the manifold broke and the 5-bell overblew. On the second attempt, all the bells sounded, but the 5-bell was still overblowing. Once I restricted the 5-bell, the third attempt was much more successful. Shortly after, I added a cardboard facade for the manifold, which was later removed. Around 2016 or so, I decided to do away with the full-length water bottle altogether and went with a design only using the spout and a cap top. This design proved to be much more efficient and less prone to leakage, and the horn was now better able to stay in tune. In 2018 or so, I altered the manifold again to make it more condensed. By now I had also switched to plastic polyethylene diaphragms and ditched the rubber bands in favor of the screw-on retainers. And with the current version, I finally found a design that I could be satisfied with. With this design, you can get a wide variety of sounds. So that's all for this video, and as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, and have fun tooting your own. Actuating the pneumatic warning device in the likeness of a rail vehicle in the possession of the person of whom I am addressing.